Good morning. Today is Monday, January the 26th of 2026. Oh, 2626, just like that. Today is supposed to have snowed a lot. As we are recording, we are estimating around, I think, 10 to 18 inches. And so hopefully you are safe. Hopefully we're all doing well and okay, and you're able to listen from the comfort of your homes. Or maybe it didn't snow at all. You know, that happens sometimes where people guesstimate a lot of snow, but then it's sunny and 60. So whether you are in the car going to work or you are snugly, comfortably in your home on this Monday morning, we are coming to you live, except
we're
not
not.
live. Like we're coming at you right now, like that. That's what I meant.
Nope.
Coming at you live with another recording of the Dear Church podcast. Today we are talking about, as speaking of safety, we're talking about security, church security. What does that mean? What does it look like? Where do Christians draw the line between fear and preparation? We'll talk about all these things and a little bit more. We have a little fun segment at the end this morning on the Dear Church podcast. You are listening to the DCP. Welcome to the Dear Church podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang. We have with us Pastor Eugene, Junsuk, and our video and audio editor for this time period, as Brian is home. We have David Kim with us, who is a member of our church. And so we're very excited to have him here, and it's going to be a good recording, I think. I'm really excited about this one because I think, well, first of all, actually, how's everyone doing? How's David doing? All right, cool. And I think the topic at hand for us is a little interesting. And of course, this has to do with what's happened within the past couple of weeks, especially what's happened in St. Paul, Minnesota. Just kind of to give you a rundown of what's been going on. Last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, on January 18th, there was an anti-ICE protest that was conducted at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. The reason for this protest was that one of the pastors on staff was known to be affiliated with ICE, and so that being the case, there was a protest that came into the church and stayed there. The head pastor then had to cancel the service as the protest got louder and louder, causing even the children in attendance to start crying. There have been legal ramifications as of our recording today. There have been arrests. I believe there have been at least 3, and more consequences are coming down the pipeline for those that were involved. And, you know, I think when we look at stories like this, and we have talked about, you know, dangerous situations in churches prior to this as well, I think inevitably it makes us consider, how are Christians then supposed to respond to protests like this, to disturbances like this in our church services? You know, sadly, we live in a world where the sacred is no longer considered sacred. The holy is no longer considered holy, quite the opposite, actually. So the question is there a biblical way that we should approach these types of situations? What are some biblical ways that we can think through church security, church safety?
A lot of it's discernment, but we can go to a pretty controversial passage. Different people have interpreted different ways. So let's go to Luke chapter 22, verses 35 to 38. I believe we could do this one, yeah.
This is Luke chapter 22, verses 35 to 38. And he said to them, "When I sent you out with no money bag or knapsack or sandals, did you lack anything?" They said, "Nothing." He said to them, "But now let the one who has a money bag take it, and likewise a knapsack. Let the one who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. For I tell you that this scripture must be fulfilled in me." And he was numbered with the transgressors. "For what is written about me has its fulfillment." And they said, "Look, Lord, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, "It is enough."
So what does this mean? Does it mean that you should buy a sword and defend, you know, the brethren if you don't have a sword? Or is it talking metaphorically? And so a lot of scholars are split on this, and I'd like to get into perhaps the context, and then maybe, even if we go to different ways of interpreting the passage, we'll at least, be united on the context, and that'll help us with the overarching theme of the section or the passage. So first he sends out his disciples, and then when they came back to him, he said, "Did you lack anything?" And the disciples say, "No, nothing." And he says, "But now." So from now on, if you have a money bag, take the money, and a knapsack. And if you don't have a sword, buy one, right? But he says something further than that, right? He doesn't say buy a sword. What does he say? In verse 36.
If you don't have one, you sell your cloak and you buy one.
So he's saying if you don't have a sword, so if you have a money bag, you could buy a sword, okay? But if you have a money bag, but it's not enough to buy a sword, then sell your cloak so that you could get a sword. And so the importance and the highlight on this, Jesus' statement here is the sword, is it not? Because he's telling you to not just take the money bag, knapsack, something that you need for your supplies, but also buy a sword. If you have to sell your cloak, then buy it.
Yeah.
And then what's the importance of that? He's saying sell your cloak if you have to. Your cloak at the time is absolutely necessary. So if you were a Jew in that area at the time, anytime it gets dark, it gets
cold.
very cold, very cold.
Yeah.
If you've ever been in desert conditions before, it just gets really cold, below freezing even if you walk in the middle of the night. I think I've mentioned sometimes when I was in the Sahara, and once it became like night, the sand felt like ice, like we were walking on ice. It was that cold. Your cloak is absolutely necessary. So he's saying your cloak being absolutely necessary, you have to sell it if you have to, even though it's so necessary because the sword is that much more important, okay? So that's the context. And then he says the scripture has to be fulfilled, that he was numbered with the transgressors, which means that, you're going to face a lot of opposition. And so he's going to face a lot of opposition. And then he says, look, Lord, here are 2 swords. So the disciples have 2 swords. And he said, it is enough. Now, it depends on how you translate or how you interpret the passage. Some people say this is metaphorical, meaning the swords were a metaphor for the danger for the disciples and the coming disciples, post-disciples, meaning the disciples after the disciples, of the danger that lies ahead. It's going to be spiritually dangerous. So you need to make sure, like Ephesians says, you take the sword of truth. That's the kind of sword that they're talking about. And so Jesus being, he stopped Peter from further violence. He attached the high priest servant's ear back, right?
Yeah.
After Peter cut it off. So a lot of scholars see Jesus as a pacifist in that sense. And so he couldn't have meant a literal sword. That's how people interpret it. Very notable, well-known scholars, respected scholars say this. And then so you would say when Jesus says it is enough, he is actually saying, so when they go, look, Lord, here are 2 swords, Jesus goes, it is enough. Jesus isn't saying, oh, the 2 swords are enough. He's saying, that's enough of that. Enough of this kind of talk. Let's move on. So that's how they interpret enough. Okay?
I see. Not that the swords are enough, but the conversation he's done.
Conversation done.
Over. Okay.
And then he goes to the Mount of Olives, and then the whole scene continues on from there. So that's enough of that. Let's move on. That's how that's enough is interpreted by some scholars. There is also, however, the literal translation. So the context is the same. The literal translation would be, if you don't have a sword from now on, because you were under a special divine protection from God while they were out the first round, because the Lord is with them, now once their Lord leaves them, they're going to need to physically protect themselves.
Yeah.
And so 2 swords is a balance issue. Not everyone should have a sword, but just enough to defend themselves, which is where a lot of just war theory comes from. So the literal interpretation helps us with the just war theory. You don't want too much, so you're like a band of thieves, everyone with a sword, but at the same time, you don't want to be people that'll just get pushed over because you don't have anything to defend yourself with. So 2 swords, 12 people, you got a good 1 out of 6 armed, right?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you will see, literally speaking, we should have some sort of security or deterrence, because if two people have a sword, maybe bandits potentially would be deterred from robbing you, right?
Right.
And so those are some interpretations of the passage.
So are we saying that we should be armed? Are we saying that we shouldn't be armed? Like, how does the Bible then, I mean, understanding this, what are we to think about church security? Should we have it? Should we not have it? Or is that a fear-based decision? Like, how do we kind of think through that?
So I think there is a pacifist way of looking at the entire Bible, which obviously we're not. Both of us were not really pacifists, but I think that is for a time. I think there is a time when people can be pacifists, and then there comes a time, I think seasons change and people in general become less pacifistic, if I may.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think maybe if you were writing a commentary in the 90s, you could be a little pacifist. And maybe if you're writing a commentary now, you might not be, as much in 2026. I don't think seasons should change how we interpret a passage, but it does seem as though there is some effect on how people see certain passages. I, for one, would look at this and I would say to take it metaphorically is a little bit difficult, only because Jesus does speak metaphorically, but he doesn't speak metaphorically in the chapter. In the chapter, he's talking about this is what you should do. This is what happens. He's very specific about what's going to go down. He's going to get arrested. He's going to get betrayed. And then all of a sudden he's talking about some metaphor about how it'll be dangerous ahead. Could be. I mean, it's possible. But I think it's probably more literal. So I think there is a level of discernment that whether you interpret it literal or metaphorical, perhaps there's elements of both. But there should be a level of discernment within your church, within a group of people that are maybe evangelizing or something like that, if you're in hostile territory, to make sure you're defended to a good degree, okay? I don't think you should be unwise. I don't think either way you interpret it, I don't think anybody would be so undiscerning as to think that we should just send 12 girls out into, the mission field, like just send them to Syria alone. I don't think people would think like that, right?
So I don't know if you remember, but I think it was about 10 years ago. There was a missionary team that was sent from South Korea to go to the Middle East. I don't remember what country it was specifically, but they went there. Even though people advised against it, they went there because their defense was, well, we have faith. We have faith that God's going to protect us. We're doing his work, so why wouldn't God protect us? And so they went, and I remember they were captured by the terrorist organization there, and they were held hostage. And I remember,
ransom, yeah,
and there was ransom involved. And I remember the South Korean government obviously being involved, and I think even the U.S. government was involved to a certain extent. And then people were saying, like, how foolish could you be? Didn't you know that this is a dangerous area? Why would you go with no sort of like security training, with a lot of women on the team as well? Like, why would you do this? This is foolish. But again, the opposite side of that is, well, we don't want to operate out of fear. We want to operate out of faith. And that's one thing that I've heard a lot, even with conversations on security in churches, is, well, don't you have faith? Don't you trust that God's going to protect you? Why are we bringing, a gun into church service? Isn't God there with us? Why don't we trust God?
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people think like that, but I do think that they thought like that. They thought, eventually the ransom was paid and they were released. And then I don't know if you kept up with the story, after the fact, they had these interviews, and the team, remember, the pastor there was actually killed. They killed the head guy, the head pastor that was leading the team. And so one person actually did die, and they said, we didn't want to be rescued. We didn't want South Korea to pay the ransom. We would have died there. That's what they were ready to do. They were ready to die. famously, Francis Chan went and visited them. And, he said he wanted to find out for himself if they were legit or not. And they came back, said they were legit, right? They just, they wanted to die for the cause. There are, things that maybe we won't know what the best answer is. And there are things where, we have to try to figure out, are we operating on, faith, or are we operating on the base of fear?
Right, right.
We're scared this may be happening.
Right.
And I would think that, you should operate on faith, but faith doesn't mean we walk in la la land. We just kind of like float around everywhere. Faith also means you should eat well. You should exercise. You should get enough sleep. You shouldn't say, oh, I have faith, God's going to give me health, and then just trash your immune system. I don't think that's faith at all. I think that is misguided, misguided understanding of what faith is. So I think there's some basic elements to understanding what it means to live out our faith. And so one of those things could be church security. Up to what should we have that could be allowable or wise when it comes to church security. But if we went to the extreme, on either side perhaps, but I don't think we'll go to the other side, but a lot of people will go to the pacifist side, which is the extreme of no security, anybody's welcome, they could do whatever they want. I think that is an extreme. Obviously, the other side will be everyone's armed, which I don't think people do. So I don't think that I would like to entertain that other, extreme side, because it just doesn't happen.
No.
But the other side does happen, where people are like, well, I'm not safe around any kind of weapons, so no one should have any weapons. There should be no security and whatnot. Well, I think that's unwise. And so there should be some level of security. And security doesn't just mean people that are armed or people that are, going to stand watch. Security also means, like, do we have a plan of exit when an emergency happens?
Yep.
Are we ready? So let's say a fire breaks out, or hopefully never, but a gunman enters through one entryway. Is there a plan that everybody knows about that we can implement right on the spot, that we prepare for, where we can take on these kinds of emergencies that might come up? Does that make sense?
What if someone were to respond to you and say, I understand what you're saying, but the moment we start entertaining security, the moment we start entertaining having a security guard, having an armed security guard, whatever it is, aren't we then in some way playing into the hands of the enemy? This is what the enemy wants us to be afraid of. This is what the enemy wants us to think about, and it takes away from our worship. Couldn't somebody say something like that? Like why are we we're playing on their terms? Why are we playing on the enemy's terms instead of just staunchly standing on the gospel and on the Bible and just worshiping as hard as we can and trusting the results of the Lord? Why can't we just do that?
People might even say, like, doesn't the Bible tell us, if someone slaps you on one cheek, you have to offer them the other one? I think that's like a passage that a lot of people might link to, we have to then be pacifists, right?
And also on top of that, this is what one pastor tweeted. He said, if your response to persecution is to arm your church, laying out strategies and contingencies while neglecting to biblically prepare your people for persecution and how to respond to it, your thinking might be as Americans first and Christians second. And so I think even in that response, what he's trying to think through is through the span of church history, Christians have been persecuted for as long as we can remember, from the first Christians till now. Why are we saying, hey, you know what? No, we're not going to be persecuted. We're going to stand our ground. If you come in through our doors as our enemy, we're going to shoot you. Versus, let persecution come. We're going to be steadfast in worship.
Yeah, again, I think it's a discernment issue. Let's say you had a whole church coming after you. Your name is Martin Luther. And the entire church is coming after you. They want to grab you. They want to put you in jail. They want to kill you. They want to persecute you.
Yeah.
Should Martin Luther have given himself up or continue to stay in hiding and finish his German translation of the Bible? I do think it's a discernment issue. Again, I think there are people who would think that maybe even Martin Luther should have given himself up. Shouldn't we invite persecution? Isn't this the will of God for Christians to be persecuted?
Right.
If he was persecuted, wouldn't, better fruit would have been born.
The testing of fire.
Right. And so people might think like that. Why didn't, I don't know, why did disciples go into hiding? Why didn't they all give themselves up? Maybe they were weak of faith. Everyone
Yeah.
in the first
Yeah.
century, they're all weak of faith. I think that is an extreme way of thinking. I think you could be America first and Christian second. It's a possibility, but not because of the things that whatever was mentioned. In my personal opinion, I don't think that's the case simply because people would arm themselves. Now, I'll say that, knowing that none of us are really armed here. We don't carry guns
What do
around,
you think?
except your arms, because
Thank you.
yeah, that's what
I've-
you wanted to reference in the end.
I have been bicep curling a lot lately.
And Junzak's arms are still noticeably.
No, he's
Bigger than
actually got
yours.
spaghetti arms. He knows it. He's got noodle arms.
My biceps don't grow.
That's what we call him around my house.
Yeah, but
Noodle
he's
arms.
wearing this
Triceps
like
grow, though.
XXL shirt, and the arms are like they're like
I
legs.
I could literally wear an XXL anytime I want.
I think
I
his
choose not to.
biceps are bigger than your calves. That's true.
But that's not saying his biceps are big. That's just saying my calves are small.
It could be both.
So
Yeah, both could be true at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive, as
no,
we say.
they're not.
And so, I think there is a level of understanding where I would see it's a discernment issue where you would encourage deterrence. So if we had in our church, 50 guys who are just huge, right? I think people might think twice about getting into physical altercations with the people in our church. Let's
Yeah.
just say, for example, let's say a good 1 out of 5 people in our church can bench 225,
What about 185? 30% probably.
whatever the case is. In fact, you have a culture where the males in the church talk about benching.
Yeah.
That's a culture, right? And so it's different from, let's say, I just want to run all day. I don't know, whatever it is. I want to go jogging. Let's all go jogging together. And there's like a little jogging group.
Oh,
It might
like a
be
jogging group.
different. That culture might
yeah.
be different than, let's say, I want to. There's a wrestling group or a BJJ group that goes on.
Sure.
The cultures are different.
Sure.
I hope that makes sense. And so those are cultures that can develop, and they would, whether we realize it or not, act as with a certain level of deterrence against people that might want to impede your gatherings or things of that nature. Okay.
But I would think, though, that if someone were to, target a church, they don't always consider the makeup of that church. They just consider what that church believes in, what that church stands for, and how much they hate it. And that's the reasoning for their action. So how much would that actually serve as a deterrent, though?
Well, I think if you are a group and you want to, let's say, do something about something or someplace, go someplace, or about someone, any group basic stuff is to send a scout, right? You're supposed to survey the land before you go. You'd be a fool not to. And so I'm sure the church was surveyed before. I'm sure that people look to see if there could be any threats to them coming in.
I mean, they knew
People
that.
don't just storm into places without knowing. You wouldn't, those 20 people would not have stormed in, I don't know, someplace down south or the
like in
Midwest.
Texas. Yeah.
That would be kind of crazy
Yeah,
to
yeah.
start screaming
Right.
in the middle of service where
Right.
75% of the people there are armed.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't. The culture's also different, right? And so, not to say anything bad about depending on what culture. I think some cultures aren't. That's not to be. So I don't want to say this with a broad. I don't want to paint this with a broad brush. We have our brothers and sisters in. Where's that place again? Ugh.
Minnesota?
No. In Africa.
Nigeria.
Sorry, excuse me. We have our brothers and sisters in Nigeria who are being persecuted. I don't think that's because they're weak. I don't think so. I think the mob is bigger than the church in that sense, right? and they overpower them with weapons, with violence, with number, with rhetoric. There's all these factors that can take place, and I don't think necessarily that church in Nigeria is weak at all. I do believe that they are very strong, especially when I heard one of the pastors speak out against the aggressors, right, saying this is wrong. And so these are things that we should and we ought to do when there are aggressors against the church. We don't go, oh, Jesus predicted it, so let's welcome it. They still spoke out against it. This is wrong. You shouldn't do this. This is still an affront against God. Instead of like, oh, let it come. I think that's a weird way for me to see it. Like almost like you're a masochist. You're inviting pain for pain's sake. That's not true. I don't think that's the way we should look at suffering.
But so I don't think people would invite pain, but I think what people may think is, well, it's not like I want pain, but if it comes with the territory. Like if pain comes, it comes with persecution it comes with being a Christian. And so I'm not going to openly reject it. I'm not inviting it, but I'm not going to fight against it either, because I understand that we're going to face tribulation, that we're going to face trial. And we know that, as we heard in the sermon 2 weeks ago, that Christ has overcome the world. And so with that hope, then we could say, well, you know what? It's going to come. Not let it come, but if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, praise God.
Well, I think we should still protect ourselves. Again, I'm the one that takes that passage literally. So I was in Egypt and I visited a Coptic church, and they asked our team to pray with the members of their church. We had communion with them. It was really grand fellowship. Toward the end of our meeting and the service there, because we had to meet at night, we had to get escorted out by the police. The police came and said, you need to leave, because people took notice that things in the church were bustling, because we had come and all these people came to be prayed for. So we needed to be escorted out by the police. And in hindsight, I didn't realize how dangerous it could have been.
Is it because it's a Muslim neighborhood? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Muslims did not like it that we had activity there.
Yeah.
Coptics are usually very quiet, and they don't really rustle any feathers. But because we were there, just the fact that we were there, people took notice. And so we were escorted and we went out the back, and then we had to get into cars and then be driven away.
Yeah.
Are you saying that we shouldn't have listened to the police and let the people come and abuse us and whatnot? I think people might say yeah, because if you did that, maybe you could have got the gospel out. And I'm of that persuasion that's very unwise.
Yeah.
That's very unwise in the sense where you're not just by yourself, you're with other people, you're with the community, you're trying to be a blessing to them. And there's all these elements that are at play. So there is a discerning factor. And I do believe some people like to see it very black and white. Like, no matter what, let's go. And if we get hurt, that's good. It's for the glory of God. So let's go and get hurt. I think that is a very, very extreme, very simplistic way of looking at the world. And I think if you live that way, maybe it's easier because you could live that way. I just don't think that is the wise way to live. Because what is the ultimate goal? So some people think, so in the end, you have to understand what the goal is. And here's a life lesson. Everything has to be subject to your ultimate aim. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everything that you do, I'm talking to you personally. Everything that you do has to be subject to your ultimate aim. If whatever you're doing isn't in service to your ultimate aim, it's useless. I think I could go that far, and I would like to go that far. Okay. We call that idolatry. If everything that you do should be serving that ultimate aim, that means you have other aims and umbrellas which ultimately would be subject to that ultimate aim. I don't know. You could call it goals. You could call it whatever. What's the ultimate goal? And so some people think the ultimate goal is to evangelize. And this is where you and I would separate, because I do not think your ultimate goal is to evangelize. It's like, how dare you? Isn't that the Great Commission to go out there and make disciples? And I would say, exactly. Our ultimate aim is the Great Commission under the Great Commandment, or with the Great Commandment. And so that's our ultimate aim. But that's not evangelism. Evangelism is an umbrella, but it's under that ultimate aim to go and make disciples.
Make disciples.
Making disciples is not evangelism.
No.
And so that's what we want to kind of get clear. So those people who think evangelism is the ultimate aim, it doesn't matter if they die because they just want to evangelize. But that's not what I necessarily think is the ultimate aim. I think it needs to be subject to the discipleship aim. So everything needs to go under what Jesus has commanded us to do. So whether we hold church services, whether we go out to the streets or evangelize, go to another nation and evangelize, whether we have Bible studies with our friends, whatever, it all needs to go under the umbrella of discipleship, not evangelism. And so when I raise my kid, that's not evangelism, that's discipleship.
Yeah.
And I think people see even raising their kids as evangelism. I do not think that's the case because I'm not evangelizing to my kid. I'm discipling my kid on how to be Christ-like.
Aren't those two connected though? Don't you have to evangelize to be able to disciple?
So evangelism is under discipleship. So I don't want to confuse the two because too many people do. So they make evangelism and discipleship synonymous, which I think is an error. I think that's error.
But so if evangelism is under discipleship, that means there are other forms of discipleship that are not evangelism.
Absolutely.
How do you disciple somebody without sharing the gospel with them?
No. Evangelism is when you share the gospel with people who don't know the gospel. That's evangelism. Discipleship is teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you. So telling them the gospel is not everything that you do. Telling people what the gospel isn't everything. That's not part of discipleship. Teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you, that's part of the discipleship. So you have to evangelize to someone who doesn't know the gospel. You tell them the gospel, but you bring them into the fellowship of believers. Otherwise, there will be no need for people to be brought into the fellowship of believers. They could have just said in Acts, when Peter went up and, the Holy Spirit came upon them, he could have just been like, now everybody's, professing the glory of God in their own language. He could have just been, go your own way, brother.
Go and evangelize.
Go tell other people about Jesus Christ.
Right.
And I said, no. It says 3,000 was numbered along with them. That means they stayed and had fellowship. They learned. In Acts 2:42, they broke the bread and the prayers and the fellowship, the koinonia, and the apostles' teaching. How do you have the apostles' teaching if you're not with the apostles? It's impossible. So just because they knew Jesus was the way, it didn't stop there. And maybe this will irk some people in the wrong, and rub them the wrong way. But you're absolutely wrong if you think evangelism is the ultimate aim for everything. It's not. It's discipleship. And so I hope people get that. I get it that you need evangelism. It's part of discipleship, but it's not discipleship. I hope that makes sense.
I see.
So in that sense, I think the error could come if you raise evangelism to everything, and then there is no discipleship taking place. There are martyrs of the faith that went and evangelized and died so that they could reach unreached people. That is different because they didn't see evangelism as the highest goal. They wanted discipleship. And if they got martyred, they got martyred. Think of, Thomas, or the guy who came to Korea.
Yep.
And they burned their ships. Historical accounts have different things, but this is how Koreans know it. I know because my father told me they had this huge ship, and the Koreans at the time, they wanted to attack the ship. It's not like they didn't have guns and stuff. They were armed, they were ready. But how do you bring down a huge ship? So what they did was they took these smaller boats, they would set it on fire and ram it into the larger boat, so that large boat would catch on fire.
Yep.
And when that boat caught on fire, you saw the missionary throw Bibles. Saying you have to read these Bibles because he took time to translate it. He wanted to get all burned with the ship. He threw Bibles. And what did he do? Did he get burned in the ship? No, he got off of the ship. Once he got off of the ship, they captured him and then they beheaded him. And so there's a lot of history behind that because he didn't just go, preach the gospel, I'm good, you know what I mean? He wanted them to get the Bible, to learn the Bible, to grow in the Bible. And all of that is part of discipleship, which evangelism was obviously the way to enter into this, nation so that they could be discipled.
What's interesting is your story. There are some accounts that say that the reason why, this was in North Korea, the northern part of Korea at that time. The reason why they actually converted was because one of the people, I think, took one of the Bibles, and then he lined his house with it as wallpaper.
Yeah. So, it was. So people in Korea remember it as, I think in Korean it's called the sword dancer. It's the guy who actually cut off the head. So they call it the sword dancer. After he cut off the missionary's head, he took one of the Bibles and he saw that it was paper that he could have as nice wallpaper. So he lined. So people for the next few decades would come to his house to read the Bible.
Yeah.
Because that's how they got the Bible.
And that's how they read the word, and that's how they believed.
Yeah.
So that's something. Yeah, I remember reading that story.
I hope I'm not trying. It doesn't sound like I'm trying to knock evangelism. Evangelism is incredibly important, especially to people that don't know the gospel. But it's not the end all. Well, you're saying, well, they'll go to heaven in the end, right? It's like, so people think heaven is the end all, and I'm saying I think people have this weird paganistic idea of what heaven is. Like, if I believe I'll go to heaven, that's actually not a good or full understanding of eternal life. And I did preach this, but it's about knowing God.
Yep.
Knowing God
Yep.
is the ultimate goal.
Yep.
Ultimate goal is knowing God and giving glory to God. So you don't want to just believe and then go to heaven. You want to know God. That's why going to heaven is the final act of knowing God, is seeing him face to face, because now I can see him in person and he can see me and he'll wipe away every tear. And this is something that I've longed to do. It's not just believing like it's some formula that you do just so that you could not burn in hell, but there is something even greater, grander than not burning in hell. Not burning in hell is maybe a good reason to believe in Jesus, but ultimately it's even more spectacular. It's even more majestic, and you can know God. You can know God, and it's through the person of Jesus Christ, and one day you'll see God face to face. And so these are the things that the Christian would long for, and hopefully it's the stuff that you learn in your path to discipleship. So, just like 1 Corinthians 13 said, when I was a child, I thought like a child. I did things childlike, but now I'm an adult. I act like an adult. So there are things that in the beginning of your infancy in Christianity that you'll go through, but you want to mature. You want to grow in that faith. It's called sanctification. And so that's what you want to do as a Christian. You don't want to always stay in this infantile state. I'm not saying infant heart-like state, but infantile state where you think like a child. And so those are things that we should keep in mind when we think about the ultimate aim. It needs to be everything needs to be subject to the ultimate aim. And the ultimate aim is to know God. And so that's what you want to do.
So if that's our ultimate aim, how should our church security look like to support that aim?
Yeah, so I think for me, I would like to express how important it is to hold service. And this is the basic tenets of our country, the foundation of our country, the tenets of our Constitution. It's to have that freedom to worship God. And that's now starting to get impeded on. That's a big issue for me. Why would you give that up unwisely, without discernment, without even a fight at all? I think that's a different understanding of pacifism. I think that's just resignation. So I don't think that's pacifism at all. I think, you've resigned to your fate to the enemy, which is just crazy to me that people might think that. I hope not. So you want to make sure your worship service is protected, that people, know that they are worshiping the Lord and that they are doing it under the blessing of, the people around them, the community. But if not, you're going to do it anyway. Things like that. People in China, they worship the Lord. The true church is underground, and so they do it knowing that the government will come and they could take away everything they have. It's possible, but they do it anyway, and the government's cracking down even harder these days. With technological advances, they're doing even more so with facial recognition technology, cell phone tracking. Christians are getting cracked down on even harder. And so we should be praying for our brethren there, but it's not stopping them from worshiping. But here it's different. We have the freedom to worship. It's in our laws. And so when people are persecuting you, that's against the law. How can you say we should invite something that's against the law? That seems to me that's not something undiscerning. That's absolute foolishness. It's foolishness to think that, we should just invite persecution against the law, against what this country was founded upon, against what made this country the country that it is. That's just insanity to me. And one of the things that I've seen, it was really good. There was a post like a week ago, maybe more, a week ago, where someone said, the way this, like the watershed thing issue will be that people will use Jesus upturning tables in the temple. So they'll equate protesting to that. Jesus protested, and it was crazy. After that, you actually saw people go, well, I don't think you should protest in churches, but there is precedent.
Yep.
And it's Jesus,
Yep.
Protesting in the temple. And so this level of biblical illiteracy is pervasive in our country because there was no, again, discipleship. Evangelism isn't going to cut it here. It's discipleship because they may have even grown up in Christian households because they knew of Jesus upturning tables, but they equated that with protesting because obviously protesting is the same as Jesus upturning tables because they are morally equivalent to these people.
But in Jesus' case, it was for the sake of worship, whereas when we see ICE, it was to disrupt and break down as much as they can what was happening at that church, which was worship. So,
Well, I'll play devil's advocate. There was a pastor that they saw had the same name as an ICE officer, and he was serving in this church. And so how can you, as a pastor, it wasn't the lead pastor, I think. It was one of the associates.
Yeah.
So how can you, as a pastor, be an ICE agent and call yourself a pastor? We must make this known. We have to protest. This is against, morality.
right. I mean, for you to get there logically, you would have to think that ICE is evil to begin with.
Well, aren't they? Because didn't they impede other houses of worship to catch who they thought was illegal?
I don't think they broke in during service. Did they? I don't recall hearing any instances of ICE breaking into services in the middle of service to catch people and whatnot. And even if they were, if they're breaking in to catch somebody, that means the person that they're catching is already a lawbreaker. The person that they're chasing is already a criminal that is running away, that needs to be brought to justice. Right? So I think this is very, very different.
Well, I think people believe that ICE is criminal.
Right.
For what they're doing.
So that's the argument, right? They believe that ICE is the greater evil, and so them coming into a church and protesting and breaking up service is a lesser evil than that ICE person being on staff at a church, is what they would think.
Well, I think they're doing a moral good
Right.
by exposing this so-called pastor who's an
Right.
ICE agent.
Right.
Because ICE is morally repugnant. It's reprehensible what they do. Don't they jail kids?
Yeah.
Don't they? No, they don't, bro. I'm playing devil's advocate. You got to correct me.
No,
they don't jail kids.
No, I'm agreeing with you until I disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the rhetoric.
Yeah,
Is my
yeah,
point.
yeah.
This is something that people message me with, and people
Yeah.
unfollow me on Insta when I post something, whatever. But they message me. Well, isn't this the case?
Yeah.
And so I'll engage to a certain level of dialogue with those kinds of accusations.
It's just a
against ICE.
misunderstanding of what ICE even does, I think, and just kind of believing in whatever they see on TikTok and whatnot. And it's really funny because I even had this conversation with my high schoolers today about ICE. And they were telling me how even on TikTok, there'll be like news stories of how, ICE is detaining this kid or something like that. But then you read the full story and ICE was holding a kid in one of their cars because it was cold outside.
Because he was abandoned. He was abandoned
and so-
by his illegal criminal father.
But then the headline is ICE detains kid.
Right.
Right. And so it's like, okay, then if you read that, and no one reads full articles anymore, they just read the headlines. If you read that, sure, you might think ICE is evil, and that's why you think that this type of action is justified. But I guess the question is, right, so knowing all of this, knowing that there are going to be times, or there have been times, there are times where churches are targeted and our Christian brothers and sisters are in danger, what is an appropriate manner of protecting ourselves? And because I think you brought up a great point with the Luke passage, 2 swords was enough. Not
that's how I
everyone
interpret it, yeah.
Not everyone had to have a sword. 2 swords was enough to protect that entire group, right? And so I think, again, like you said, the one extreme is complete pacifism. The other extreme is everyone is owning a gun and is locked and loaded and ready for action. But that's not a realistic thing, right? So as a church, how do you wisely discern how to protect your people? When do you hire a security guard? When do you involve firearms? So how do you even discern all of this, knowing what we know about our world today?
Yeah, you have to understand the context of where you are. Where are you,
Here.
Are you in, the United States? Where in the United States?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
in Mexico? Are you in Colombia? Are you in Nigeria? Where are you? And you should use some of that context for to help you with your discernment. I do not think that you should treat every single place the same when it comes to security, but there is a level of understanding where, what we saw in Luke 22, there is a baseline that we should go off of. It shouldn't be overly done where, now you have to get bazookas in New Jersey. I don't think that's something that we should do. But we shouldn't be entirely without any kind of security or preparedness of what might come. I think that's unwise. And so to find that level of discernment, make sure you have a praying congregation, a praying pastor session, and to come up with, good solutions or, good deterrents for things like that. And maybe even seeing what, houses of worship do around you could also help you with that discernment. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
if other people have assessed that they needed like 3 security guards and you have 0, that might be an issue, things like that. But for our context, I'm obviously not going to tell people in public through this podcast what kind of security we have, but
right.
for our context, we do live in a very Jewish neighborhood, and so there are some temples around us, and they all have security.
They do armed security.
And so they have security. So it would be, we would be remiss.
It would not be
to
out of
have-
the norm.
right, if
Right.
we had security.
Right. What if, though? So, what if I'm a member of a church and I don't necessarily agree with my church's security protocol? Let's say we have armed security officers at our church, or we have members who are armed, and I'm just uncomfortable with even thinking that there are firearms here when there's children running around.
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to be uncomfortable with
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
I
Like,
think so. I think
should I
some
leave a
people have.
church though because of that, or like what? Like,
Well,
'cause
I mean,
think,
the level of uncomfort could be
Right.
great for some people. Some people could be living with some kind of, I don't know.
some
You could
trauma,
be raised.
maybe.
You could be raised to have trauma,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
may not have actual trauma. They could be raised to feel trauma
Right.
when there's a gun around or something like that.
Yeah.
We are in the Northeast. No one here carries guns. Just
Yeah.
to see the gun and the potential that it could do,
Right.
could be traumatic to some. This is why most houses of worship actually just hire an armed security.
Yeah.
Because they're professional. They don't have people that are licensed to actually carry within services. They just hire a police officer
Yeah.
to come, and they'll just stand in the back. armed,
Yeah.
right? But they'll
Yeah.
stand in the back.
Right.
And so most places do that. If we were not in New Jersey and you were, let's say, in the Midwest,
It's a different culture.
it's a different culture. You'd
Yeah.
have you'd have armed deacons.
yeah.
The pastor might be armed. There might
Yeah.
be a gun under his pulpit.
There
I
could
don't know.
be.
There could be.
Yeah.
Like you charge the pulpit, boom, a shotgun.
Yeah.
It comes
on a
right out of
swivel,
that
on a
pulpit.
swivel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not going to say that's the dream, but that is something that you might see in the Midwest or down south.
But I mean, I think this is something that is a reality for some people. I mean, as sad as it is to say, and this is what we pray against, right? We pray for our churches to be safe, for us to be able to conduct our worship services in a manner that's pleasing to the Lord in safety as well. And so, I mean, this is something that is a sad topic almost to talk about, but almost like a real topic that we have to talk about because some of these attacks and these targets are happening in the world today.
I think it is a sign of our times. More and more people think that you can invade a Christian church service to protest, and that you have, the right to, or that you should, or even if you don't really like it, it's admissible. I think more and more people think along those lines, which is why you'll see perhaps churches, upping their security.
Yeah.
And so it is contextual in the sense where you see the seasons are changing for the church, very unfortunately so, but they are changing for the churches in the United States.
Yeah. So I think this is something that we have to continue to pray for. Whenever we meet on Sunday mornings, we have a children's ministry prayer time where all the teachers for that Sunday gather, and we always pray for safety. We know that there have been things that are happening around our country, around our world. And so we always want to pray for safety for our church, for our service, for our members. And so I think that's something that we have to continue to pray for, that God would protect us. And granted, like we want to have a security plan and we want to be as safe as possible. But I think first and foremost, we have to pray. And I think that's something we have to continue to do.
Yeah, I think it is enough. That last sentence that Jesus said holds a lot of divine wisdom for us. You don't want to spend too much time on it. You want to spend just enough. You got 2 swords? That's enough. Let's move on. Because there's other things to worry about. There's other things to put our cares and concern for. Let's say the lost that enter the church. Let's say protecting our children from, let's say, predators that might enter the church thinking, oh, this is a easy place for me to get access to, the vulnerable. You need to have security measures in place for that. It's not just protesters that might come and disrupt your Sunday service. So there's other things to put our care and concerns in, even when it comes to security. And so hopefully people will see that and know when it is enough.
Thank you for that reminder. And again, this is a reminder for us to pray and to continue to be vigilant in serving the Lord for the ultimate goal, and also keeping our brothers and sisters safe as well. Thank you, Pastor Eugene. On to some fun current events. This is not really current, nor is it an event, but it is a debate that's going on, especially in our music ministry, I think, at the Church Gathered and Scattered. There was a video that showed, I don't even know, like, the rhythm of the iPhone ringtone, like the classic one. And there's a debate now on how to count this iPhone rhythm.
Man, introduce is so unfun.
I don't know how to do this in a fun way.
Unfun why?
How about
Unfunly.
Shinseok, would you like to introduce it in a fun way?
So there's an iPhone ringtone that everyone knows. It goes ba-da-da, bum 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 bum.
That's not how it goes, actually.
Bum, bum, bum. That's literally how it goes.
I don't think so.
All right, let's watch the
bum,
video
bum,
and
bum.
then the people can listen or watch and decide.
There's been an ongoing debate in our band for at least 3 weeks now on where do you feel the iPhone ringtone. I feel it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. People feel it a different way. I don't know why. Don't look at me.
I know that there are many ways to feel rhythm. This is how I'm feeling this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how I'm feeling it. You feel? Look at that. Nice, clean notation. This makes complete sense to me.
The
We've interviewed every single person we know, and it's almost an even split. Besides the point, no one is wrong or right. We want to know why this is even happening. It's like the black and blue dress thing, the white and gold dress. Everyone just has different brains, but we want to know why there is this insane discrepancy among every musician we ever know.
That's it.
So that's the video. I don't know what the debate is about, to be honest. It's either you have ears or you don't. It's just number two, or you just, I don't know.
So Sam's on option 2, Junsuki.
So if you listen to the melody, there
No,
are
you're
accents.
trying to
There are
be
accents
no.
on the downbeat. You go bada bum 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 bum.
No,
Bum,
you're
bum,
trying
bum,
to
bum,
do
bum,
the
bum, bum,
opposite
bum.
of
It
popular.
fits so perfectly.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't fit. That's not a real thing. That makes no sense.
You don't even know how to sing the thing.
Wait, but that makes no sense.
What does David think?
I hear two.
You hear number two. Okay. Now I don't want to be two.
I know there are at least two sane people in this church. Me and Sean Pake.
And if we can kind of generalize both of your views on everything, you're very contrarian. You like to be hipster. You like to disagree with the popular thing. And so obviously you would pick one. I'm not really surprised by that. But I think it's just, again, I think here you see an example of what is good and what is really like better, pure, holy.
Wait, can you
Philippians-
sing it? How do you sing it with your beat? Just so that people will know. How do you know?
Okay, it goes. Bada bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum
even
bum
know how to
bum
sing the melody
bum
with
bum
something
bum
else.
bum 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 bada bum. Like that. That's how. It's a little pickup.
Oh, so you sing it like this? Ba-da-bum-bum-bum.
No.
That's me.
No, you're not on the downbeat. It's bada bum 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 like that.
To do the beatbox with the thing.
I can't sing it.
Why would you put the accents on the upbeat?
No, it's a pickup. It's a pickup. You pick it up. I just don't agree with. Yeah.
I've been arguing with our music team over this too.
Yeah, Junseok's been a very avid defender of option 1.
There's like classically trained people on that chat.
Yeah, me.
You are trained in bench press. That's about it. There's nothing classic about that.
David is classically trained.
No, I'm saying in that on this music
David
team.
plays saxophone, by the way.
David does play saxophone. He's classically trained.
I don't know if
He does- he
nobody
likes
cares
option
about
2.
that.
He
I
said,
just
he likes option 2. He's on your side.
No, but nobody cares about what he played or may have not played. But I'm just saying, like, on that music chat team, there are classically trained people, and they all say option 2. And so you would think, okay, do I take that option or do I take the option of two contrarians who disagree with everything popular?
I am option 1.
Really? No
Yeah.
way. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Why would you put the accent
There's
on the
no
upbeat?
way.
I'm option 1, baby. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum.
There's no way. There's no way. That doesn't make any sense.
Interesting fact, every single one of our drummers picked option 2.
Yeah.
That's an interesting fact. Every percussionist picked 2. But who picked 1? 1 wasn't that popular,
Just me and
actually.
Sean.
And me. Oh,
Yeah,
and
I think
also our clarinetist. He picked 1.
Oh.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
See, classically trained.
Yeah.
He actually might be the most musically talented.
Actually, it's fun for me because people really think
That it's option
the
2.
other option is crazy. So if you think option 2, you think option 1 just doesn't make any
It
sense.
just seems like a
and I'm
psychotic
trying,
thing.
and then option 1 people do their best to try to go to the option 2 beat, but they can't. Like Junsuki trying to sing the option 2
I
beat.
can't. I don't even know where to clap.
What are you
See,
talking about?
You can't do it.
What are you talking
So
about?
I'm telling you, teach him how to do it. Teach him how to do
That's
option 2.
so. Just consider the bottom to be a pickup. Bum 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 bum. It's just a pickup.
Why do you add a note to it? Why
That's
do you
it.
add a note? It's bada bum 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 bum. That's how you do it. Now do it.
Bum 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 bum.
Why is there an X?
Why are you adding
Two
stuff?
notes there.
It's just. I don't know. You know.
Anyway, if you have some comments, please email Sam at samyang.
Yeah, if you're classically trained, I would love
cgsng.org.
to understand why you also chose second option.
Well, I could tell you why the first option makes sense for
Oh
me.
yeah, please.
It's not even the accents. It's what happens after the quarter note. It's bada bum 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 bum. That's how it sounds to me. So after the last note, that's when you go the downbeat hits after the last. So it goes bada bum 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 bada bum bum bum. Then you continue on from there. So if I were to beatbox, which I can't, it'd be like bada bum 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 bum. That's how it goes. So the downbeat starts after the note, the last quarter note, and the rest. That's how you get to it.
No, I
So
can't.
Try to do it.
I can't do it. It's the first two notes are a pickup. I just can't. I can't do it.
So just do the 4/4 beatbox right now. I'll sing it along. Just sing just beatbox.
I don't know. I don't
We
know.
don't even have to put this in just beatbox.
I don't-
Just
I
go.
don't-
Just go. Just do it. Bada bum 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 bum. All right.
No,
All right. Now
no.
I'll do it. You try. You sing it. Ready?
Okay. Bada bum 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 bum.
I don't even know what he's singing.
Why are you
What
adding
are you
stuff?
singing?
No, the pickup has to come before the kick. That makes no sense. What?
You're not even singing the ringtone right.
Wow. I was very humbled today.
No, I think most people pick option 2. I saw the
there's a
polls for
poll,
it.
yeah.
I saw the poll for it. It's like 75% of people
Yeah.
pick option 2.
No, I don't think I'm wrong. I'm just humbled that there are differing opinions around me.
I voted on it to make the option 1 go higher.
And it probably didn't even budge.
Probably didn't budge. There were like 30,000 plus people that voted on this poll.
I can't believe for so many years people are listening to the iPhone ringtone wrong.
Thank you for that, Pastor Eugene. And I hope Dawei keeps some of these takes in. Because it's a snowy day, it'll be nice to just kind of relax and listen to some iPhone tunes. So, thank you for that, Pastor Eugene. Thank you, Junzuk. Although incorrect, you are still my friend.
Well, before we end, can we give a little update on where our merch is?
Yes,
People
it is still
waiting for the
it,
merch.
it is still happening. So please don't be discouraged. It's still happening. I think it's taking a little bit longer because it's personalized. So, but it's still happening. And when it comes, we'll announce it. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. Join us next week as we will be having a Q&A with Dr. Garner from Westminster Theological Seminary. He'll be coming to speak for our men's retreat and staying on Sunday, preaching for Sunday, I believe, for our Sunday service, and also joining us for our podcast episode. So we hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith. Peace.
Peace. Now enjoy the outro, the iPhone ringtone.